Hello everyone, I'm Havish Madhvapati. Welcome to this course on Tableau. Before I give you an introduction to the course and show you the different things that we will be covering, I want to give you my own introduction. I run a firm called Havisham Consulting. It's an analytics firm, and I do a combination of spreadsheet modeling, data visualization, and business intelligence. The core of the work that I do happens on Excel and a combination of Power BI and Tableau. There are certain clients that work on both the tools, Power BI plus Tableau, and some of the clients work on either one of them. In terms of my background and qualification, I've been working on Excel for almost 2 decades now. My journey with Excel began as a school student, absolutely fell in love with it, and I basically have never stopped working on it ever since. In addition to that, I am one of India's most published authors on Excel. I have written over 18 books. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer, Power BI certified. Havisham Consulting is a Microsoft partner. I'm also Harvard certified in data science. I was listed as a 40 under 40 innovators in analytics for my work done in Excel Visual Basic. This was given by Analytics Insight in 2019. And then in 2020, I was also listed on Indian Achievers Award. These sort of clients with whom I work are, again, sector and function agnostic. So I don't claim to be a specialist in any one area, so in any one function or in any one sector. But the work that I do spans across multiple sectors and functions. So I've done a lot of work in the energy and power space. I've worked with Adani Transmission, Adani Power, Sterlite Power, and a little bit of work with IndiGrid as well. I have conducted over 250 trainings for PwC and EY, have done some small consulting projects for Deloitte. At the moment, I'm doing a lot of engagements with D. Shaw for the New York and the Hyderabad office, for the financial operations and the financial technology teams. I also do trainings regularly for Economic Times, and I get invited by ET Masterclass to do some sessions on corporate finance and modeling for them. And then, other than this, there are a lot of other clients across multiple sectors. I have done a lot of work in HR specifically, but I have done and dabbled in marketing, supply chain, operations, finance as well. My work has been featured in a bunch of different places. I have also worked extensively with Business World magazine, and my work has been featured on the cover of Business World several times. The Times group I engage with very frequently. So you can see that I do a bunch of different sessions for ET Masterclass. My area, of course, is Excel. That is where I conduct all the sessions. I also write on Medium, and I have over 800 videos on my YouTube channel. There are also over 50 repositories that I have on GitHub, where I like to share different things that I've learned and small projects and solutions that I have created for clients. I also run a podcast called Conversations on Data, where I invite senior business leaders across different industries, and I speak to them about anything and everything related to data and building a corporate career. In terms of B school engagements, I have worked with almost all the top 100 B schools in the country. I have worked with 17 of the IIMs, where I do a combination of guest lectures, workshops, certificate courses, and I also judge a lot of competitions at these colleges. All the details are there on the website. In case you're curious and you would like to have a look, you can see the website. I obviously sell online courses, which at the moment of this recording, there are 34 of them on Excel, Power BI, Tableau, PowerPoint, Python, R, etc. On dashboard samples, you can also see a PDF with different dashboards that I've created. The projects were done for clients. Of course, the data has been sanitized, but you can get a sense of the sort of work that I do. If you would like to see all the Tableau dashboards, you can go to my Tableau public profile. And if you'd like to see and download the Power BI reports, they're all available on GitHub. Excellent. With my introduction out of the way, let us look at an introduction of the course. Hello, everyone. Now that all of you have got to know me a little bit, let us look at an introduction to the course. We're going to work on Tableau, but it is very important to know what you're going to learn, and equally importantly, what you're not going to learn, what is not covered in the course. Now, you have to keep in mind that Tableau is almost a 2 decades old tool. Hence, there is an overwhelming amount of content available on it on the internet. And in all honesty, I don't think any course can do justice to it if you attempt to cover all of it. This course, on a level of difficulty, I would rate to be, let's say, a 1 to a 4 on a scale of 10, which means that I'm going to start from absolute basics. I'm even going to help you install Tableau to begin with. We will look at an introduction of some more advanced features like calculations, and I will even do a couple of examples on level of detail expressions, which are one of the most advanced things that you can do on Tableau. But do keep in mind that there is a lot more that Tableau has to offer. Tableau also has connectivity with R and Python, which just opens up so many other possibilities. Hence, while this course is going to get you up and running, and those of you who are at a very basic level of Tableau, I'm very confident you will learn something more out of this course. Do keep in mind that it's a very long journey and it's a process of continuous learning. So don't expect one course to be able to teach you everything. Hello, everyone. Let us look at the different Tableau versions that we have. So if we go to the Tableau website and we go to products, you see that there are different products that are available. We have Tableau Desktop. Tableau Desktop is essentially the core software, which is where you spend all your time. Tableau Server as Tableau Cloud, as the name suggests, works on the cloud. Then we have Tableau Prep. Tableau Prep is a ETL tool similar to Alteryx and to Power Query, allowing you to combine, extract, transform, and load the data. Then we have Analytics, Tableau Public, and some other tools as well. Tableau Public is the free version. So if I can open it, this is the one on which I'll be working. This is completely free of cost. You simply have to use your personal account and you can download Tableau Public right away. The catch is that your data also becomes public because you cannot save your work on premise on your computer. Once you have created a report, you will only be able to save it on the cloud. Hence, the name is Tableau Public. So when you're working on non-sensitive, non-confidential public data, it's not really a problem. But if you're working with an organization data set, then probably Tableau Public will not work for you. In case any of you already have one of the paid versions of Tableau, that also works. Everything that we're going to cover in this course is obviously applicable to the paid version as well. In fact, the paid version does not really have any additional major features that are not there in the public version. So this is the one on which I will personally be working. Just to give you a glimpse of the other versions as well, let me just open the other pages as well. So you can see that we have Tableau Server and we have Tableau Cloud. Obviously, these two are meant for enterprise customers. Then we have Tableau Prep, which is a data cleaning and a data preparation tool. Then we have CRM Analytics. These are more focused Tableau tools. Now that Tableau is owned by Salesforce, there's a lot of integration between Salesforce and Tableau. Then we have Tableau Data Management. This again allows data management capabilities. We have Tableau Advanced Management. This again is more on the IT end, not so much on the analyst end. And of course, you have embedded analytics, allowing you to use Tableau reports, but embed it into other software and interfaces. Now, one other very important question I would like to answer is Tableau versus Power BI. Now, if all of you look at the latest Gartner Magic Quadrant for 2022, you can clearly see here that Microsoft Power BI and Salesforce Tableau are the number one and the number two in the market. And we only have one other player in the top quadrant, which is Click. Of course, there are a lot of other players as well. So we have IBM Cognos, SAP BI, SAS, Oracle BI. We also have Google. But these two clearly are two very big leaders in the market. Now, if you would like to get a sense of what type of job roles are out there and what are the other supplement and complement skill sets that companies are looking at, I would suggest that you simply go to any job portal, such as Naukri.com, and you can just search for Tableau here, and that should give you a very good sense of what sort of other skill sets are companies looking at when they are hiring people who work on Tableau. Similarly for Power BI as well. Hello, everyone. Let us spend some time and get to know the data set. While we're going to spend all the time creating visualizations and making it dynamic, it is equally, if not more important, to get to know the data. It would be a very amateur mistake to simply load the data set and start to work on it before we even get to know it. Now, there is a link that has been provided with the video, and there are about 30 odd datasets here. So what I've done here is to collect datasets from a wide variety of fields so that you have enough to practice on. While in this workshop, we'll be working on the Global Marketing Superstore dataset, which is a fantastic dataset, something that I have personally used in a lot of my trainings. If you want to work with more datasets, and you should, then you should definitely have a look at this link on Dropbox, where different datasets have been provided. With that said, let's have a look at the data that we have. Now, the reason I have chosen this particular data set is because this is already inbuilt in Tableau. So if you have any recent version of Tableau and you want to work with one of the sample data sets, then you have this data set available. It's called the Superstore data. The data is for a fictitious company called Superstore. And what we have here is the order date, we have the shipping date, then we have the customer name, the city, state, country, region, market, category, segment, subcategory, sales quantity, discount, and profit. Let's go through it column by column. So we have the order date, which is the date on which the order was placed. The shipping date is the date on which the order was shipped. Now, it is possible that the ship date is the same as the order date, but obviously it cannot be before the order date. Then we have the customer name. From column D till column H, we have the geography. So we have the market, region, country, state, city. If I apply a filter, you can see that we have 5 markets with us. We have Africa, APAC, Europe, Latin America, and United States, Canada. Within these 5 markets, we have 16 regions. We have 165 countries, and similarly the state and the city. Then we have the business details. We have the business segment, which is business to consumer, business to corporate, and business to home office. There are 3 categories of products that we are selling. So furniture, office supplies, and technology. And finally, we also have 17 subcategories that fall under these 3 categories. At the end, we have the quantitative data, which is the sales quantity discount, and the profit. There are no errors in the data. There are no blank columns or blank rows in it. We have about 50,000 records with us. So it's a fairly mid-sized data with which we are working. I would encourage all of you to spend some time and get to know the data. Maybe even spend some time working on it on a pivot table just to get to know the data better. Because once we start to work with Tableau, we'll be focusing more on the visualization side. We will not really be interested in looking at the data. So it's very important to do this homework beforehand. Please spend some time and get to know the data. Hello, everyone. Now that we've seen the data set, let us load our data set onto Tableau. This is the first screen that greets you if you're working on Tableau Public, like I am. If you're working on the paid version of Tableau, there might be a few small differences. One difference is that in the server option, you will have many more options. Here we only have these three. But by and large, the experience would be almost the same. On the left side, you can see the different types of connectors that we have. So we have Excel, text, JSON, Access, so on and so forth. If you have a Tableau public account, you can also click on the Open from Public button, like I'm doing right now. And it allows me to sign in and to select any report that I currently have on Tableau Public. So allow me to sign in. So you can see that the moment you sign in to Tableau Public, you will see all the different reports that have been saved on Tableau Public. On the right side, we have some help material that they have given, and you have some additional resources here at the bottom. For now, I simply want to select Microsoft Excel, and we will connect to the workbook that I've shared with everyone, which is our dataset marketing sales superstore dummy. Select, click on open. The moment Tableau connects to that Excel workbook, you come to a different interface. On the left side, you can see the name of the connection, which is the file that we have. In case you want to add one more file, you can go to the add button. We also have something called data interpreter, which allows you to clean an Excel workbook. So typically when you have some additional rows and columns, this allows you to clean it automatically. Personally, in my experience, I have not found this to be a very handy tool. You can do a Google search to read about it, but I don't want to cover it at the moment. Here in this window, we have the one and the only sheet that we have. In case we had multiple sheets with us, then we would have had an option of doing a merge or a join. This again is something I'll be covering in a separate video. Union is similar to an append, which means that when you have multiple files in a folder, let's say there are 5 Excel files for 5 different regions, and you want to combine all of them, you can use the union here. If I double click, it allows me to select multiple files from a folder. This again I'll be covering in a different video. On the top right corner, there is an add button which allows you to add a filter. For example, if you don't want to see the data for the entire world right now and you just want to see India, then I can go to add. I can select my country. I can select India here. And you notice that an India filter has been applied. So the states you notice are now only for India. It also tells you that there is a filter that has been applied. So obviously you can apply multiple filters, and in case you want to remove it or edit it, go to edit and select and remove. It also tells you that there are 15 fields. That means there are 15 columns and there are 51,290 rows or records. The name of the sheet can be seen here. The icon tells you what type of data it is. So for example, order date is a date, customer name is a text, city, state, country are all geographies like this. And then if I go to the right, you can see that sales, quantity, discount, and profit have a hash sign which tells Tableau that it is a number. Now in this interface, you can't really do much. So if I do a right click, you notice there are some very basic options we have: duplicate, rename, copy, hide, aliases like a nickname. And we can also create some calculations. Change the data type, describe, and geographic code. But that's about it. We don't really have a lot of complex tools available in this interface. And we almost seldom don't use it, or rather, we almost seldom use it. If at all you want to do a calculation, it is better that you do it in the actual report and not do it in the data source view. So essentially, I don't want to do much here. The data source view, like I said, is only enabling you to connect to the data set. You don't really have to make any change here. At the bottom left corner, we have sheet 1. That is what I'm going to select. And this, everyone, is your report view. This is where you will be spending most of your time creating visualizations and formatting them, and eventually creating a dashboard as well. In the next video, we will look at what are dimensions and measures, and we will also understand aggregation versus granularity. Is that we have country, state, city. So we have a hierarchy that has been created. For example, we have a country. Within the country, we have state, and then within the state, we have city. Now, just to jump a little ahead and tell you what is aggregation versus granularity, the moment I double click on country, you notice that it creates a map for us. We're going to cover this in a different example, so you don't really need to do it right now. I just want to explain to you what is aggregation versus granularity. Now, the moment we say that country is level 1, this is the highest form of aggregation. And the moment I say plus, we go to one level of granularity. And if I click on plus again, it goes to the city, which is the farthest level of granularity that we have. So always remember, an aggregation will be the most aggregated level of data. Granularity will be the most granular level of data. Now, in case you have done this with me and you would like to remove everything from the sheet, then you can just click on this button called Clear Sheet, and it will go back to brand new. In the next video, we will be working on our first visualization. So I hope you're excited. Hello, everyone. In the last video, we understood what is aggregation versus granularity, and also dimensions versus measures. We do have another topic called level of detail, which I'll be explaining at the end of this course. So we want to make our first visualization right now, and I want to make a map. Now, there is no specific reason for me to make a map as the first visual, other than the fact that it looks very nice. And it's a great opportunity for you to get a sense of the level of depth that you have to formatting in Tableau compared to, let's say, a tool like Excel. Now, on the right side, you can see that there are 21 visualizations that we have. So we have our table, pie chart, maps, column chart, tree map, so on and so forth. But at the moment, we can't really select any of them. The reason is that if I want to make a map, you notice that it says that to make a simple map, I need to have at least one geographic dimension. Without it, we can't make a map. So let's do that. I have my country here, and I simply want to double click on it. So the moment we double click on country, you notice that a few things have happened. The country has come in my detail option, and then we have the longitude in the columns and the latitude in the rows. What if we did it manually? So let me click on this button and clear the sheet. What if I put my latitude manually in the columns? I drag it, and I put my longitude manually in the rows like this, and then I put my country in the detail. You notice that it doesn't really work. The reason is that it is creating an automatic chart. If I click on the drop down and I make this into a map, again, it doesn't work properly. Now, a lot of people say, but should it not have worked? Like, did we not just do the same thing? So when I double click on country, we are getting a long and a lat. Okay, so pay attention. If I keep my longitude in the columns and I keep my latitude here and I keep my country, it works. So you have to be very precise. Tableau is very bad at telling you when you have made a mistake. So even though we did not put the lat and the long in the correct place, Tableau did not even attempt to tell us or give us a warning that we might perhaps have done a wrong thing. But why this approach? This is what makes Tableau very powerful. So the fact that Tableau allows you to be very flexible and really make the visualization the way you want to make it is fantastic, because it really is like a design tool. And the quality of visualizations that you can create on Tableau would be so much more flexible and visually more appealing compared to even Tableau, to even Power BI for that matter. But the trade-off is that it does not really tell you when you have made an error. So while you can do it manually, which is what we have done, you have to be very, very careful while placing all these pills or boxes. In Tableau, we usually refer to them as pills because they look like a medicine pill. Excellent. Now we have the country in the detail like this. These are 5 marks that we have. So we have color, size, label, detail, and total. And gradually we will cover all the 5. Now imagine that I am happy with the map, but I would not just like to plot each of the 165 countries. We would like to have the size of the bubble corresponding with the sales value. So I will select my sales and I'll drag it into the size, and you notice the size of each of these bubbles changes. But they look really small right now, don't they? So I can click on the size and I can increase the size like this. Looks a lot better. And now I can go to color. We can choose a different color. I'm just choosing a green color here. And then I will apply a border. And if you want, you can apply a halo effect as well, like this. Let's also reduce the opacity a little bit, like this. I think that looks brilliant. How do I know that there are 165 countries on the map right now? You can see that in the bottom left corner, it says there are 165 marks, which means there are 165 countries that we are plotting right now. So I like the map. But the thing is that we have the same color for each bubble. What if I could also have a different color on the basis of the sales value? So what we want to do is, I don't want to change this map. I just call it map 01. And I want to duplicate the sheet. Right click and duplicate. And then in map 2, we also want to keep our sales in the color. And now you notice you get a range of colors. If you hide this visualization option by clicking on show me, you can see that the values range from 20 till 22 lakh 97,000. So the country with the minimum sales is 20 and the country with the maximum sales is 22 lakh 97,000. But what if you don't want this blue color? What if you want something different? I can go to color and we can go to edit colors, and you have all these palettes available. So there are a lot of these inbuilt palettes. Of course, you can put your own color as well. So you notice that we have a custom diverging and a custom sequential, where you can choose the colors that you want, or you can choose any one of the preset colors that we have. So for example, I'm choosing a red, blue diverging like this, and I click on apply, and it looks like this. In case you feel, no, I don't want this red, but a different color, I can just go back to color, edit, click on this, and choose a different color here. So I'm choosing a color here. And that is the visualization. But what if you want a specific color? For example, let me go online and let me go to a website called brandcolors.net, which is a huge collection of brands and the colors that they use. So I just want to copy two of these. I'll copy this one, come back. We will go to color, edit color, and we'll keep this hex code that we have copied. One more time, we'll come back. We'll copy this one. In fact, this one looks nice. And then come back, click on the green, select my hex or HTML and paste it here. So now you notice it looks very nice and very individualistic because you have kept colors that you wanted, not just some default colors available on Tableau. Let's duplicate the sheet. Now in this one, I'm very happy with the way it looks. But what I would also like to do here is to go to map, and then we have an option for background maps where we have light, normal, dark, streets, outdoors, satellite, none, and some other third-party integrations that we have. So currently by default, it is set to light. So we have a normal here. I'll just duplicate the page so that I can show you the others as well. So then we have a dark that comes here. One more time. We have a street. After that, we have an outdoor. And finally, we have the satellite like this, right? So you can see the different types of maps that we have every month. Now, what is even better is that you can even import a Mapbox map. Let me tell you how to do that. So first we go to Mapbox. Of course, Mapbox is one of the leading map providers. A lot of companies use it. While it is paid, you can use a free account as well. That's the one I have also. So I don't have a paid account, everyone. I have a free account as well. How Mapbox works is that once I go to Mapbox, I can go to create a map in Studio. And I'm going to do this right in front of you. First, we will make a new sheet. So right click and duplicate. Let me delete the ones I already have. So let me delete. One more time, let me delete this. And one final time, let me delete this one as well. Perfect. So let's start from a blank slate. I want to go to new style, and there are many options available. I select the one called navigation. And I have day and night. I'm going to choose the night and go to customize. Now here there are hundreds of options available. So what I want to do right now is simply to get a link for this particular map. How am I going to do that? If I go to share, you notice that we have an option for the website embed, and we also have an access token and a style URL. If I copy the style URL and we go back to Tableau, I can just go to map, background maps, and select add Mapbox map. And we can give it a name. I'm just going to call it temp and paste the URL here. And it says it's not in a valid format. So let me just go back and check that. Okay, maybe let's try this one. And okay, and here you go. How cool is that? This really looks special because you have not just used one of the default ones, but you've actually gone over to Mapbox and you've selected something of your choice. And you can really see the variety of options that we have available every month. So look at the number of components and layers that we have. Of course, it's a learning curve, but if you're interested, you can just go to the website and have a look at this. We're not even done so far. There's a lot more left in maps. I'm going to make one more. So let me duplicate the sheet and we'll just make a same map, but we want to make two of these. So what I want to do is I have a map already and I have my longitude in the columns and my latitude in the rows. So I want to select my longitude once again and I'll drag it into the columns. And what that does is, if you notice, it creates two maps for me like this. Let me also go and see if I can set the page. So let me go to map, background and select light. Okay. I'm not quite sure why it's so large. It should be a little smaller in size. Yeah, I think that's better. Hold on. Let me do it from scratch. That would be easier. It's very easy to get lost in Tableau and do something wrong. Most of the time, starting from a blank slate is a good idea. Okay, so let me double click on country. We are putting the longitude in the columns. That looks good. And now I want to select my sales in the size and my sales in the color. And let's increase the size a little bit. Go to color and let's add a border and let's add a halo effect as well. Perfect. I think that looks great. So I hope you see what we have done. We have put two maps in one. Why would we want to do that? Because now you notice that we have an all option and we have a longitude and a longitude. Why is it coming two times? In the previous map, you notice it only came one time. We have the marks, but now we have it coming two times. The reason is that this is my first map and this is my second map, which means that now I can remove the sales like this, and I want to keep my profit in the color and the profit in the size. Let's also reduce the size a little bit. So you see what we're doing, right? Let me go full screen. The shortcut for the full screen or the presentation mode is F7. Like you have an F5 on PowerPoint, we have an F7 here. And you notice, now I can see my profit and my sales at the same time. How cool is that? Let's again duplicate it, right click and duplicate. This time I want to remove the longitude, right? There are two ways to remove a pill. Either you simply drag it outside or you can just click on it and select remove. What if I keep something else in my columns and rows? For example, maybe I want to keep my market in the columns. You see what it is doing, right? Because you have 5 markets, now it is showing you all the 5 markets like this. So we have United States, Canada, we have Latin America, we have Europe, Asia Pacific and Africa. Pretty cool, right? Now I know it's really small and probably that's not how you would want to present it, but it's good to know that you have this capability. But to help you understand it better, what I would like to do is I want to put the segment in the rows and the category in the columns. So now you notice we are getting a 3x3 map, and it essentially shows us each unique combination of the 3 segments: consumer, corporate, home office, versus the 3 categories: furniture, office supplies, and technology. Right? And I think this looks absolutely fantastic like this. Okay, let's make one more. So let's call this map 01 and 10. Once again, I'll double click on country. And what I would like to do is to be able to drill down. That means we are going from aggregation to granularity, which means that I will click on this plus sign. But before we do that, let's also put the sales in the size. And in the show me option, I want to select my map, not my symbol map, but my regular map. And you notice now it gives you a map like this. This also looks great. Let me also go to color and add a border here. Perfect. Okay, now when I click on this plus sign, you notice that it actually breaks it down to the level of the state. But if you break it down to the level of the city, then it actually breaks down as a bubble. That's the way it works, right? But I can always go back to the country and the state level like this. Now, obviously, when you're looking at the data like this, you might only want to see one country at one time, or maybe only one market at one time. So I can right click on market and we can say show filter. So you have the filter coming here. Let me also change it into a single value drop down. And now you notice that I can see any one market at a time like this. We can also put something like the sales in the filter. So right click and show filter. And maybe I'm not interested in looking at the countries all the way from 19 till 2,70,000. So I can just move it and you see how nicely the map is changing as well. So it's a beautiful way of visualizing the data in case you want to choose a specific range. Maybe you only want to show the countries doing the sales between 19 and 80,000, or let's say 3,000. There we go. These are all the small countries that you have. As you've seen so far, there's a lot that you can do in maps. Just to show you one more example, let me remove these. So remove filter and remove filter. Let's go back to the country level and let's also change it into a symbol map, right? And let's increase the size a little bit. Here we go. What we can also do is we can change the shape. So right now it's all a circle and you notice that it has selected the automatic mark. But if I scroll down, we have a shape option. If I select that, you notice there are different shapes available and you can choose all of these. As a matter of fact, you can even keep your own custom shape in Tableau. So if I go to more shapes, you can see that I have these inbuilt shapes that we have, but you can also upload your own palette into Tableau. I have a video on YouTube on my Tableau playlist that explains how to do that. Wonderful. So we come to the end of this quite long lecture, but I hope this acted as a very good start for everyone to get you a feel for how Tableau works and how the formatting works. Of course, all these tools are so in-depth and I can really talk about them for hours. So please be sure to be very curious and never be afraid of trying something new. Tableau is not learned by being afraid and only doing what you know. It's very important to be curious and try to fiddle around with things. Try to keep options in the different place and try and see how that changes the vision. Sure, every once in a while something might not work properly, but you can always undo it and do it in a different way. As a matter of fact, the visualizations that look very different and a lot better than the average visuals are only done because these analysts and developers are very curious by nature and they continuously try to experiment and try out different combinations. So as you can see from our single example, you can see the number of different maps that we have created, everyone. So please be sure not to just practice what I have told you, but to spend some time on it before you move on to the next lecture and try out different combinations as well. Hello, everyone. As I mentioned earlier, when you're working on Tableau Public, which is the free version of Tableau, you will not be able to save your work on your computer. The only option you have is to save it directly on the cloud. There really is no problem in this approach, other than the fact that if you're working with any confidential or sensitive data, obviously you will not want to make that data public. Let's go back to our Tableau report. So I go to File and you notice that there is no option to save it on our computer. And the only option we have here is to save it on Tableau Public. Now, we want to call it Tableau course. I'll click on save. Because this file name already exists, it is asking me if I want to overwrite it, which I do. So I click on yes. And then it publishes all the different sheets that we have. It takes a few seconds to do that. And the moment my entire report has been published on Tableau Public, you notice that this is how you can see the report online. Now, for some strange reason, by default, only the active sheet can be seen. So all you have to do is to click on the gear icon, and then you select show sheets. And by enabling this, you can see that all the sheets that you have in your current workbook are visible to the user like this. Now, if you want to send it across to someone, you can just click on the share button, and you can either embed it on your website, or you can just copy the link, send it to someone, and all they have to do is to open the link on their browser, and it opens like this. So it's a very easy process for you to be able to share it with others, especially if you're a student and you have created some report. This is an excellent way of sharing your work with others. Hello, everyone. In this visualization, I want to show you how to create the packed bubble chart. This is an example of a report that I found in The Economist, and I'm sure that all of you would have seen similar visualizations in a lot of different places. Consulting firms especially love to create this visualization. So we call it the packed bubble chart, and this is an inbuilt chart in Tableau. So all I have to do is we will select a subcategory. Remember, there are 17 of them. So when I double click on it, we get a table with all the 17 subcategories. Then we double click on sales as well. And then we go to show me, and we simply select the packed bubble chart. That is it, as simple as that. Right now, you notice that the color is as per the subcategory. What you can also do is to remove this and keep the category in the color. And now you notice that there are only 3 colors that are coming in, one for each of the categories that we have. You can see the legend on the right side: furniture, office supplies, and technology. So let me make a few variations with this. Let's call this our packed bubble. Right click and duplicate. On this one, we will remove the category from the color. We'll keep the subcategory. So you can see that there are 17 colors that we get. One more time, I will duplicate it. Now we know that these 17 subcategories fall under 3 categories. So the moment I put my category in the columns, it automatically breaks my 17 subcategories into 3 parts. So you notice that there are 4 in furniture, there are 4 in technology, and there are 9 in office supplies, like this. Let's make one more sheet, and let's remove the category from the columns. Now imagine that you would like to keep the color as the sales value. So I will remove the subcategory from the color, and we'll keep the sales as the color, and you get this, right? So this shows you that 73,000 is the subcategory with the minimum value, and 17 lakh is the subcategory with the highest value. If you want to show the label as well, I can just put my sales and drag it in the label. Obviously, you can't see this for every single one, but then you can clearly see it for the larger ones. Obviously, if you make a filter with the sales amount, right click and show filter. Then I can move it left to right, and this can help me filter the large or the small data set like this. So excellent way of interacting with the visualization. Let's make one more. So duplicate. Now, if you want, you can do something really crazy. For example, once I duplicate it, I can also keep something like, let me remove everything first. So I can also keep something like the customer name. Now remember, we have hundreds of customers. So the moment I put the customer name, you notice that, okay, it is not working. Let me start from a blank page. So I double click on customer, double click on sales, and then we convert it to our packed bubble, and we get this, right? We can also put the sales value in the color, right? And you get something like this. Now, of course, you can ask, what is really the value in creating something like this? But it's just something that looks nice. And for certain visualizations, we just want it to look pretty, right? And that is exactly what we're doing here, as you can see. Like this. Hello, everyone. In this video, we want to discuss tables and heat map. Now, no matter how good visualizations are, every once in a while, you do want to make a table as well. So let me select my subcategory and the market and the sales value. So we have 17 subcategories, 5 markets. So that would be 85 values that we have. Let me also increase the column width. By default, you can see that we don't have the total. For that, we can go to analysis, select totals, and then one by one, you have to enable them. So I'm going to select show row and again go back to totals and select show columns. So you can see we have the total coming in like this. Now imagine that I keep the sales in the color as well. So you notice that we get a range of colors, and this looks pretty nice. The numbers are readable. Plus you get a sense of the scale of the number by looking at the colors that we have. Let's make one more sheet. On show me, I can also select highlight tables. Now you notice that the data is coming with the subcategories in the columns and the market in the rows. So I can either press Control W or I can click on this button, which will swap the rows and the columns. That looks better. If you want to increase the size, I can just go to Format, Cell Size, and then we have options for Control Up, Control Down, Control Left, Control Right. Let me show you how that works. So Control with the direction key allows you to increase or decrease the size, right? Quite handy. Now this looks great, but the thing is that maybe I do not want to see the numbers. Maybe I just want to see the heat map or the highlight table. To give you an example of how other organizations use it, look at something like this. If I'm not mistaken, I believe this is a McKinsey report that we have. And look at the way they have used a heat map. No numbers, only the color. The same thing we are doing in our Tableau report as well. So I'll go back and I'll duplicate it. And the only thing we have to do is we have the sales in two of the marks option. We have it in the color and we have it in the label. So I'll just remove it from the label. And there you go. You get a heat map like this. And that looks pretty cool, right? Let's make one more. Let us also look at some table calculations now, which means that let me first get the sales back in the label and remove the color and make it into a normal table like this, right? Now, there are some calculations that we have, but for that, we will do that in the next lecture. Hello, everyone. In the last video, we worked with tables and heat map. Now we will look at quick table calculations. So right now we have 5 markets in the 5 columns and 17 subcategories in the rows. All I want to do now is to go to analysis and totals. But here you notice we only have the option for row column totals. And then we also have an option called percentage off. Percentage off is selected to none at the moment. Now, if I select percentage off table, and let me also turn on the row and the column total so you can understand it better. Check this out. You notice that the grand total of all these numbers, right? So these 85 combination adds up to become 100%. If I go back, then we also have other options. So I have the percentage of a column. This way, all the 5 markets add up to 100% each. But it tells me that for Africa, what is the breakdown among the 17 subcategories? That means which subcategory within Africa is contributing the highest or the least. If you want to sort the data, we can do that as well. So I can just go to my sales value and we can go to sort. Let me just try to find that. Okay, that's odd. Okay, here we go. So we have the option here. So let me sort it in a descending order. So we can see that in Africa, phones is contributing 14% of the business, storage is contributing 12.33% of the business. Right? If you look at the other type of calculations we have a row, a pane, a row in pane, and a column in pane, and a cell. These are more advanced, but you can experiment with these if you want to. But I don't want to cover them right now because the table, the column, and the row is what you end up using most of the time, right? Also, when you make a table, let me copy it one more time. Also, when you make a table, we have some other options that come here as well. For example, I have the table layout in case you have some empty rows and empty columns. So perhaps there are certain subcategories that have not been sold in one of the combinations. It will not show by default. You will have to select show empty rows and empty column. Then we also have the option for a highlighter. For example, if I select my market as the highlighter, you notice that the highlighter comes here in the top right corner. And this way I can choose any one of the 5 markets or the grand total. And you notice it just helps me highlight it like this. This is great because when you're presenting a report live, it will really help you capture the user's attention by doing this. For example, I've selected LATAM here. And maybe if I keep another highlighter for the subcategory as well, then I can choose one of these, right? And it's very easy for me to highlight the combination that I've selected. Hello, everyone. The bar and the column chart are 2 of the most used charts everywhere. Not to say that they're not good, but then you really should be experimenting with other types of charts. In fact, I have a video towards the end of this course that also discusses how to choose the appropriate chart type. That said, the simplicity and the ubiquity of the bar and the column really makes it very popular. Let us look at the different variations that we have here. So I'm going to make a new sheet and I want to call this mine. column chart, right? Nothing special. We'll just start with the column chart. In the column chart, I will double click on my market and double click on my sales value. And then we go to show me and we select our bar chart. In case you want to convert it into a column, I can just go to my swap button, which is Control W, and we get a column chart. So very simple to toggle between both of them. Now let's look at the sort of things I can do here. We can put our sales in the label as well, so that the label comes at the top like this. And of course, if I duplicate it, I can also put my sales in the color so that we get a gradient like this, ranging from light blue to dark blue, like this. If you want to sort the data, we have that option here at the bottom. Actually, I'm not sure where the option would be. Let me just check once. So if we want to sort these, I'll have to go to market and we go to sort, and we say that we don't want to sort it by the data source order. I want to sort it by a field, the field being sales, and maybe I want a descending order like this. Right? So it's pretty smart the way you would do it. So I can sort the data like this as well. Let's duplicate it. Now, even though I would advise you not to start at anything other than a zero axis, if at all you feel you want to start at a non-zero axis, I can select my y-axis, right click, and then edit axis. And here you notice that in the tick marks, we can select a fixed mark. So I can say that I want to start at maybe a million. Okay, that did not help. Let me do it one more time. So we right click and then we go back to edit axis. And okay, here we go. So the tick mark should not be changed. Let me reset it. I want to change in general my range. So I want to make it fixed. And maybe I want to start at 1 lakh like this. It's very dangerous when you do it without a comment because it's misleading. The user will not realize that you're not starting at a zero axis. So you should at least make sure that you're explicitly telling the user that this is what you are doing. But it's good to know that the option is available with you. Also, if you want to present something like an outflow, where these numbers would be expenses, I can right click and then go to edit, and I can also first reset this. I can also make it reversed like this. And in case you work with any data where you want to work with a log, you can make it logarithmic as well like this. Let's continue. Okay, let me change it back to how it originally was, which is like this. Perfect. What else can we do with this? Right now, we have the color which is coming as per the sales value. Let me remove that. We know that there are 3 business segments, correct? So the moment I put my segment in the color, you notice we get a legend with these 3 colors like this. And that looks pretty smart, right? So we are creating a stacked bar chart. Similarly, you can also create a stack. In fact, the first one was a stacked column chart. You can also create a stacked bar chart like this. One more time, right click and duplicate like this. Okay. Now imagine I put the sales value one more time in the columns. You notice that it is creating 2 of these. Why would I do that? Let me remove the sales. Now imagine I put my profit in the column. So this is very smart because I'm able to see the 5 markets and I'm also able to see the sales and the profit. So look carefully. In the first chart, we have the sales, and in the second one, I would like to keep my profit. right? So it tells me that on a sales of 771, my top line, I've earned a profit of 73,000. One more time, you notice that we have two marks coming here. This is my first visual. This is my second visualization. Pretty smart way of showing the data. Okay, let's do one more. Let me remove the profit. Imagine we want to make 100% bar chart. For that, I will go to sales and we will select quick table calculation. Just like we did it in the table, we can do it with the bar chart as well. So I'm going to select quick table calculation and we will select percent of total. Now something has happened. You do see that the x-axis has changed into percentages. Earlier it was a number, now it's a percentage. But there's something still left. I again have to go back to sales and we will go to edit table calculation. And what we will do here is we will see that I want to compute it using table across like this. And this way, look what happens, everyone. Let me remove the label and let's keep this in the label as well. Okay. Whenever you're dragging a pill, remember you can't just drag it directly because it will move away from the columns. What you should do correctly is to press the control key so that when you drag it, you're making a copy. And this is excellent. Now we are able to see, everyone, the percentage contribution coming from each of the three segments in each of the 5 markets. If you want to keep your sales one more time in the label, now you notice I can see the number and the percentage both at the same time. Let me duplicate it one more time. Okay, let's start from the beginning. So I want to put my sales in the columns. That looks good. Now something very strange that I can do is to put the sales in the size as well. So it creates something like this. I'm not necessarily saying that it's a good chart, but then it's just something some people like to do. So I thought I'll show it to you as well. I also want to sort my data by my sales value in an ascending order. Okay, and yeah, there you go. So like I said before, mixing and matching the visualizations is very, very important. That is how you will learn how to create these very interesting, different looking visuals. Let me also sort my segment here by a field, which is my sales value. Yeah, I think that looks a lot better, right? Okay, one more time, right click and duplicate. And let me start from the beginning once again. Okay. Now, one more thing you can do is to have multiple values in the tooltip. For example, this is my sales value in the label. Now, look carefully what I'm doing. I will keep my sales one more time in the label, but doesn't really seem to work. What if I change my sales here from a sum to an average? And then again, I put my sales value in the label. Now you notice I can see the sum and the average at the same time. So let me make it the count. And then one final time, I will select my sales value, keep it in the label, and we get 3 numbers now. So we're getting the average, the count, and the sum, right? Like this. Just pretty smart. So you can see there are a number of different types of column and bar chart that you can create. And of course, it's a lot up to your creativity in terms of how you're using it, right? Hello, everyone. Let us look at the line and the area chart. So first, let's create a new sheet. And I want to call this my line chart. All right. So we have our order date. I will double click on that. And then also double click on our sales value. And then we go to show me and I convert it into a line chart. So far, so good, right? Now, dates are very interesting because dates can be a dimension and a measure. Let me explain that. Right now, you notice that my order date is coming as a green pill. right? So you notice we have year, quarter, month, and day, and we again have year, quarter, month, and day. So they're coming two times. The difference is that right now, if I expand on my year, it is going to break into the quarter. Let's see what happens. So if I click on the plus sign, it breaks into the quarter, which is great. That's what we wanted. Again, if I click on it, it breaks into the month and finally the day, like this. Let me go back. So I can right click and click on year. Now imagine that I right click and I select the year which is coming here. This will convert it into a blue pill, which means it becomes a dimension. So now when I click on the plus sign, you notice that it actually breaks it like this. So it is creating a discrete line. Earlier it was a continuous line, now it's a discrete line. Why would you want to do something like this? It's purely a matter of choice. For example, some people like to see the report this way, the year, quarter, and the month. Let me remove the month from here by dragging it outside. And you notice this is quite a smart way of looking at the data, isn't it? Maybe if I put my market in the rows, check this out. Pretty good way of looking at the data for the 5 markets and getting a good sense of how the numbers are moving across the 12 months for all the 4 years, right? Okay, let's make a duplicate sheet. We start from scratch. So again, I'll select my order date and sales value like this and change it into a line. All good. Now, if I click on the plus sign, it breaks into the quarter. What I want to do now is to keep my market in the rows and it breaks it into 5 like this. It's pretty simple. It's quite similar to what we had done before. A very small touch that you can provide to this is by putting the sales in the size, right? And the thickness of the line changes. Some people like it, some don't. I am indifferent. It really depends on what the client asks for, but it's good to know that you have that level of flexibility. Also, you have the option for a path, which allows you to change it into a different path like this. Again, let me show it to you in a different sheet. So right click and duplicate. Let me remove it from the size and I will keep the sales in the color, right? So you get a very nice gradient on the line and I'll change the path like this. So we create a stepped chart like this. If I also put my segment in the columns, now we get a visualization that looks like this. Let me just go to my fit width view like this, right? Okay. Let's make one more. Now we also have the option here for some analytics. So I can double click on order date and double click on my sales value and make it a line chart. Plus like this. And now I can click on the analytics button and we can select the forecast. Simply drag it inside and you notice you get a forecast like this. Let me go to the month level, in fact. Now, how does it even work? If I right click, you see that there is an option for forecast and forecast options. And in this, there are a lot of customizability that you have. So I can aggregate it at a different level. I can fill in missing values. There are 3 different models available: automatic, seasonality, custom. I'll not get into detail right now because there is a hyperlink here. You can go to it. And then on the Tableau website, it explains everything in a lot of detail. A course like this will not really be able to do justice to it. Hence, I'm not explaining it right now. It's beyond the scope of this course, but you should definitely have a look at this. You also see that if you want to see the statistics for the forecast, then I can go to worksheet and select describe sheet with a control plus E. And that opens up a sheet description where a lot of different forecast details are available. Again, this might not make sense to you if you don't know the statistics behind it. But for those of you who are interested, this is quite rich. Okay, one more time, let me duplicate it. In fact, let me keep the market in this one as well. Yeah, I think that looks better. All right, now let's say that I want to start from scratch. So order date and sales and a line, right? Like this. And let me go down to my month level. But what I want to do now is I would like to see the month and the year in a way that, please watch, I will keep my order date one more time, but this year I'll keep in the rows. So that means there are 4 years that are coming. And this month, I'm going to make it as the month. Play around with it. If you're not able to understand it perfectly the first time, remember this only comes with experience, right? So make sure to spend some time and get comfortable with this. But I have put the year and the month both as a dimension, as you can see. Okay. Once I've done this, what I would like to do now is to keep my profit next to my sales value like this. So what it does is it gives me my sales and profit together. But that doesn't make sense because the scale is different, right? We have 0 to 60 and 0 to 400. Hence, what I want to do is to click on the profit and then select dual axis. This way, you get a dual axis like this, but do keep in mind that the axis is still not matching. So make sure to right click and synchronize the axis so that now it looks like this, right? Pretty nice way of looking at the data, isn't it? But let me show you an alternative to this. If I right click and duplicate, what we can also do is I see that there are two charts we have. We have a sales and we have a profit, correct? What if I select my sales and rather than selecting an automatic line chart, I'm converting it into a bar chart. Right, everyone? So I'm making it a bar chart, and then in the profit, we already have a line chart, which is okay. Now this is the profit we have. I will not synchronize the axis like this. Now again, you have to be clear that when you're presenting it to the user, while the axis is the same for all the 4 years, the sales and profit is not matching. So you should be okay with that, right? As long as you are comfortable with it and you can present it to the user properly, it's a pretty smart way of showing the data. In fact, I can also make the path like this, right? Which is an alternative that we have. There are obviously some calculations that we can do as well. So let me show you. So order date and sales value and a line chart. Okay, now look carefully what I'm going to do. We have a sales here, right? So if I click on quick table calculation, we have a few options here. We have running total, percent of total, so on and so forth. I'm going to select running total, the very first one, and we get a cumulative total like this. So what does it mean? It means that as of Q4 2014, the lifetime sales has been 8342636. Pretty smart. So now if I put my market in the color, we get 5 lines like this. Let me show you a different way of using it. We want to create an area chart. Now the area chart is almost like this, like a line chart. The difference is that the area under the line is covered. Let me make a duplicate sheet. Let's call this area. And you notice that we have the options here for the area chart. There we go. Of course, the area chart can also be used as a 100% area chart. Let me duplicate it. And here we want to go to our sales value. We will enter a new calculation. So let me first remove the calculation that we have. Then we will go and create a calculation which is our percent of total. You see that the y-axis has changed to percentages now. One more time, we will go to compute using and we will select table down. And this creates a 100% area chart like this. Looks fantastic, very practical. A lot of consulting firms use this as well. And now, for example, if I keep my segment in the columns, we're going to get three of these like this. Hello, everyone. Let us look at the tree map. I'll make a new sheet. Let's call this the tree map. The tree map again is used by a variety of different firms, and most likely you would have seen it in some report or the other. Let me do a quick Google search, and you can see the way tree maps are used here. Making one is really simple. I will double click on market, double click on my sales value, and select my tree map here. And you get a tree map like this. Now, if you notice, my order date has an inbuilt hierarchy in it. For example, if I remove the market and I keep the order date in the label, you notice there is a plus sign that appears here. And I can click on that to go to the quarter and the month level. Let me make one more duplicate sheet. But imagine that you want to create this hierarchy for, let us say, the segment, category, and the subcategory. To do this, I will drag and drop the different dimensions to create a hierarchy of my choice. Just like we have one for country, state, city. Similarly, I'm going to drag my category on top of the segment, and it creates a new hierarchy called segment, category. One more time, I can drag the subcategory below the category, and now you get three levels like this. Let me also rename this, and let us call this the subcategory. Now, when we put the segment in the label, you notice that we have the option of clicking on the plus sign. That looks fantastic. And I can also put my segment as a filter so that once we change it into a single value dropdown, I can choose any one of these at one point of time, or I can also select all of them together. We can also play around with the colors. Let's see how to do that. The default color that we have looks like this. We have the automatic palette. Now, one option is we can choose one of the inbuilt ones. For example, the green, blue diverging. Apply, and we get this. Let's go to a different sheet. We can also change the colors that we want. And then we also have the step color option where we can define the number of steps. So there will be 5 distinct color that come, not a range of colors. So for example, if I only choose 3, then we only get 3 colors like this. So it really depends on how you would like to present your data. And I think this looks great. Let me make another sheet. So we will remove the sales from the color, and we want to keep the segment in the color. And now you notice we get 1 color each for the 3 segments. But imagine that we are not keeping the segment, we are keeping a field that is not currently available. For example, if I'm at the level of my segment, there are 3 of these. Let me also add the sales in the label, which we can see here, and maybe add a border as well. That's much better. Now imagine we keep something in the color which is not currently used. So for example, if I keep my market in the color, what it does is it essentially makes 5 colors, 1 for each market, and each market has 3 segments in it, obviously like this. And of course, you can still click on the plus sign to go down to the category and the subcategory level like this. And the filters still work like this. You can also make a tree map where we keep something in the columns and the rows. For example, the market is in the columns and I want to keep my segment in the rows. And we get a tree map like this. You might wonder why would we want to create something like this, but then there are a lot of use cases and it really depends on the business requirement. And this is quite a smart way of looking at the data as well. Hello everyone. In this video, we will look at the lollipop chart. If you do a Google search, you can see that this is quite a common used visualization. And you can see how the lollipop chart has been created. Personally, I have seen a lot of financial reports being created in this way, but I guess you can use it anywhere and everywhere. So let us go to our Tableau workbook. I'll create a new sheet. Let's call this lollipop. So first, I will keep my subcategory in the rows. And then we have our sales in the text, and we'll convert this into a bar chart like this. Then I can use my arrow keys, control left, control right, control up, control down to change the size as you want. What we want to do now is to put the sales value one more time. So I will select my sales value and we will again put it in the columns. So it creates two of these. What I would like to do now is to select the second one, and we don't want it to be automatic. We want to change it to a circle like this. Now we want to combine both of these. So I can right click on the second sales value and we can say dual axis. And then in the first one, we will make sure that it is a bar chart. In the second one, the circle is already selected, but I also want to change the color, let's say into a gray color, and increase the size a little bit like this. Okay. And you get the lollipop chart like this. It might require you a little bit of manipulation to make sure that you get it right. Usually what we do is that on the bar, we keep it really thin. That means we increase the gap width. And then of course, the size of the circle is increased a little bit. And the final result looks like this. Hello, everyone. Let us look at the profit margin. First, I will select the market and the sales and the profit value. Now we know that the profit margin is nothing but the sum of profit divided by the sum of sales. And the same way for all the 5 markets. So we click on the drop down, we select create calculated field, and we want to call this the profit margin, which is equal to the sum of our profit divided by the sum of the sales value. We get the profit margin here as a calculated measure. We would also like to change the format. So we go to default properties and number format, and we want to make it a percentage. Now let us select the profit margin and keep it in the measure values, and here we go. We get the profit margin. Now there are a lot of creative ways in which this can be used. For example, let me duplicate the sheet. Let us say that we want to make the subcategory and the sales as a column chart like this. Let me rotate the label as well. Now in the color, if I keep the sales value, then obviously you get a gradient. So you get a range of colors ranging from light blue all the way to dark blue. But let me remove it. And I want to keep not my sales value in the color, but the profit margin in the color. Now, this is quite interesting. If you look carefully, we are getting an orange color here for tables. That means that there is a loss that we are incurring. So it's actually minus 8.46, right? And you can also see that some of the taller bars, for example, chairs, does not have a very high profit margin. On the other hand, some of the smaller ones like paper have a really high profit margin. So this is a very creative way of presenting your visualization. Let me add both of these to the label as well. So profit margin in the label as well as my sales value in the label, right? So you can clearly see if I make this into a bar chart, just a moment. Um, Let me just make sure everything is coming properly. Yeah, I think that looks good. Let's also add the label now. So sales and the profit margin. Perfect. Here we go. So you can clearly see here the sales and the profit for all of these 17 subcategories. And it's clear that the correlation isn't there. Sometimes higher sales do not lead to a higher profit margin. Hello, everyone. In this video, we will look at a slightly more advanced topic, and I'm going to cover three important things in a single video. So we want to use a calculated field, a parameter, and a reference line. So let me create a problem statement for you first. Let's call this ref line with a calculated field and a parameter. Now imagine that we have the subcategory and the sales value as a column chart. We already know how to create it. Let me also right click on the x-axis and rotate the label. Perfect. So what we want to do is to have a reference line, a horizontal line, and that line is a user selected value. So essentially the business wants to see, let's say, a line at 800,000, and any subcategory that is done higher than that would be one color, and lower than that would be a different color. Let's see how to do that. All right. So first we want to create a parameter so that the user can choose a value. For this, we click on this small arrow, create parameter, and I want to call this choose ref line, an integer, and we will create a range where my minimum is, let us say, 10,000, and my maximum is 14, or let's say 1,500,000. So that would be 15 lakhs or 1.5 million. When I click on OK, the parameter is created here below the measures. We can right click and show the parameter. So that comes here. And you see that I can change this and choose any number between 10 and 1,500,000. Now, how to get this number inside the column chart? We will select the y-axis, right click, and then add a reference line. Now you notice that there are a few inbuilt options. For example, we have the average sales. So if I click on OK, that's pretty smart. It gives you the average sales, right? But this is not really what we want. So I will edit it and we will say that we want to find a constant. So that means we can put a number manually, but that's not what we want to do either. So what I want to select is a parameter. Now we can either create a new one or I can select the one we already have, which is choose reference line. So what happens is that the number flows from the user selected value into this value here. Let me also increase the line thickness. And there you go, we have a reference line. And the best part is that I can actually move it up and down like this. So that is one part of the problem done. We also want to show the number here. So I will right click, edit, and we want to show the value in the label. Perfect. Also, I will edit the parameter so that it only moves in increments of 10,000. So you can see that it goes from 730 to 720 and so on. Perfect. We also don't need the y-axis, so I can right click and remove the show header option. So we remove that. So it becomes a very clean visualization. Now I need to write a formula. So a condition which allows me to detect whether the subcategory is above or below. For that, we again go to the drop down and we select create calculated field. We want to call this subcategory color as per the reference line. Now, formulas in Tableau are a little different to other tools. For example, we don't start with an equal to sign, and we don't have a VLOOKUP, for example. You do have a lookup function though. And then there are some functions which are unique to Tableau. For example, you have the ZN function. For now, we will keep it simple. If the sum of sales is less than the choose refline value, then I would like my result to be, let us say, lower. Else, I would like my result to be higher. And we also want to end it like this. The moment I click on OK, you notice that a new field has been created. So this is coming in the measure. And there is an equal to sign here, which tells us that this is not coming from the source data. This is something that we have created. We simply drag it into the color. And now lower has one color, higher has a different color. We can also change the colors if we want. Let's do that. So I want to select higher, and we will select some interesting shade of green here. And for the lower, I'm going to select a gray color, something like this. So that's my final result, everyone. You'll notice that as we move the ref line, columns above and columns below will automatically pick up a different color. Hello, everyone. Let us look at this scatter chart. So I'll create a new sheet. Let's call this the scatter chart. Double click on profit, then double click on the sales value, and we get a single dot right now, which is the total profit and the total sales. But the moment I keep my market in the detail, you notice we get 5 of these, right? Now, what does it tell us? It tells us that Europe is 449,000 on profit and 3 million on top line, which is sales. And if you look at APAC, APAC is 403,000 and 4.04 million. I can also change the size here. If I keep the profit margin in the size, let's also increase the size a little bit. You notice that the size now tells me the profit margin. We can also change the shape if we want. So I'll make it a filled circle. And we will also keep the market in the color. So we get 5 different colors like this. Let us also see how the pages can be used, something we haven't done so far. So if I keep my order date in the pages, you notice that we get a year that we can select here, and we can go through the data year by year. For example, if I click on the right arrow, it takes me to 2013, and then 2014, and then 2015. You can also change the speed from here. So you have a slow, normal, and a fast. And for example, if I make it slow, then the data looks like this. And it moves on its own. There are a lot of other things you can do here. For example, I can also enable show history. And by doing this, please watch. When I click on any one of these circles and you go to the next year, you will notice that it also shows the history. You can also enable the entire trail. So this way you can see the trail as well. Let me do it one more time. I'm selecting all of these, and I hope you can see the trail here, everyone, like this. So a lot of creative ways in which this can be used. You can also set both, and it looks like this. I'm obviously not going to cover every single one of these options because there are so many of them, but please make sure to spend some time and have a look at all of these things. But this is not all. There is a lot more that I can do with the scatter charts that we have. So this, of course, is my basic scatter chart. Let me make a duplicate sheet, remove the market, and this time we want to keep the customer name. So the customer name is in the detail. Let me reduce the size like this. And we'll also make the shape a little different. So I'll make the shape a circle like this. And we also want to, let me just try a few different combinations. Yeah, let me make it a circle, and we also want to reduce the opacity like this. Perfect. Now in this, you can clearly see the outliers that we have, which are here. Let me stop the show history. So you can see the outliers here and here, everyone. Now the next thing I want to do is to have my sales and profit as the filter. So right click show filter on the sales and right click show filter on the profit. And you can see that I can move these around to get this beautiful effect like this. Okay, that was very easy. We also have some option for analytics here. So what we can do is, I have an option called the cluster. We will drag it inside, and it asks me what are the variables that we want. So right now we have selected the profit margin, the profit, and the sales. Since there are 3 things that we have: profit on the y-axis, sales on the x-axis, and of course we have the profit margin, which determines the size. For some reason, if you don't want one of these, you can just remove it, or if you want to add one, you can do that as well. It will automatically determine the number of clusters, but you can put a number of your choice. For example, I can make it 5, and I get 5 clusters like this. Now, if I ask you, out of these 5 clusters, which one is contributing the most to the top line and the bottom line, to the sales and the profit, a lot of you would be tempted to say that cluster 4 is the bigger one because here the profit and sales are higher. But you also have to keep in mind that the density is more when you look at cluster 1. So, for example, if I select cluster 1 here, you notice that the density might be a little more, right? Like this. But how do you really prove that? And how do you verify which one of these is contributing the highest to sales and profit? To do this, I already have my clusters that have been created, but we can just drag it to the left into the tables option. And if I leave it there, you notice that the cluster comes here. Okay, I am not able to do that. Let me just try it one more time. Okay, I think we might have to remove the year from here. Yeah, now it should work. Okay, so let's select the clusters and drag it back into the tables. And you notice that it creates a new option called clusters, which is customer name. If I right click and we rename it, we can give it a name. Also, I can right click and edit the group. And this allows me to rename the clusters or redefine it. Right? So let me do it one more time. This is our basic chart. No year is applied on the pages, everyone. I will go to analytics, select cluster, and then drag it. We will remove the profit margins since we don't want it at the moment. And we also want to remove the profit margin from the size. Perfect. We want 5 clusters right now. And this is your scatter chart, everyone. Now the clusters, I'm going to drag back. I want to drag this back into the tables. And we will right click and edit the group. And you notice that these clusters have been created. I'm not quite sure why we are getting a not clustered here. Let me just try it one more time. So very quickly, double click on profit, double click on sales. We get the customer. Let me delete this first. We get the customer name in the detail. Perfect. And let us now go to analytics, cluster, and we want to make 5 of these. And we want to drag it back into the tables, right? And then we want to edit the group. Perfect. Now we have 5 clusters and 5 clusters only. And we can also rename the clusters if you want. For example, I can say that this one, right, the green one, which is high sales and high profit, I can rename it. I can just call it high sales and high profit. After that, we have the one that comes here. So we have cluster 4. So we call this medium sales, medium profit. In fact, let's call this high sales and high profit. And this one can be very high sales and very high profit. All right, then we have the blue one, which is cluster 1, and then we have the red one. Now, red one, if you notice, is high on sales but low on profit. So cluster, okay, I think I messed up something. So let me just cancel it and do it one more time. Right click and edit group. We'll go carefully one at a time. So let's go cluster by cluster. First, we have the yellow one, which is cluster 2. So I want to rename it and we want to call this obviously low sales and low profit. Perfect. Then we have cluster 1, which is the blue one, which is medium sales and medium profit. Then we have cluster 3, which is high on sales, or rather medium sales but low on profit. Then we have cluster 4, which is high sales, medium profit. And then finally, we have cluster 5, which is high sales and high profit. Perfect. So it took us a little bit of time, but once we apply, you notice that the names would have changed here. So when I right click and edit group, we get the different names that come here, right? Okay. Now we will make another sheet, right click and duplicate. Let me start from a table. So I will convert this into a table, everyone. We don't want to see the customer name. Let me remove that. And we also want to keep my customer name clusters in the rows. Okay, now look carefully and see what is happening. Let me keep the profit margin here as well. Perfect. Now this clearly shows you that if you look at it in terms of sales, the cluster with the highest sales is medium sales, medium profit, which is so interesting because a lot of us would focus more on the customers coming in the top cluster, right, which is cluster 5. But as it turns out, that is not really the super important area because the density is very low. There are very few customers that we have that fit into that particular cluster. If you want to see how many such customers are there, then I can select my customer name, put it in the measure values. No, to do that, first I'll put it in the rows and I want to change it to a measure which is the distinct count, and then we will keep it back in the measure values. Here we go. So you can also see the number of customers that we have, everyone, in each of the clusters that we have. And of course, there's a lot of analysis that you can do with this, and you can base a lot of insight and actionable points based on this. If you're wondering what method is Tableau using to calculate the clusters, everyone, if I press Control E, which is going to describe the sheet, it actually doesn't tell me a lot. But if you want to see the way the clusters have been calculated, Tableau has a very nice article on this. So you can just go to the Tableau website, you can search for find clusters, and it tells you how it does it, right? So at the back end, we are using a k-means algorithm, and that is how it manages to find the clusters that are there. I will not get into detail right now. This is a lot of theory that you have to go through. As you can see, it explains everything to you here. It uses the k-means algorithm and it tells you how it is calculated. So please make sure to spend some time and go through this everyone. Hello everyone. Let us create a tooltip. So the first thing I want to do is to create a simple column chart with the market and the sales value like this. And let's make it into a simple column chart like this. When I hover my mouse over any one of these columns, it gives me this white box. And this is what is called the tooltip. And we do have a tooltip option here. So in case you want to customize it, I can make changes here. For example, maybe I want to increase the size to 20 and I want to change the heading to bold in a different color. And you can see how easy it is to do that. You can also preview it, and that is how it will look. So you notice the tooltip looks like this. It looks a lot better, right? Excellent. Now that we have this, let us also see how to create a custom tooltip. So right click and duplicate. If you want to add additional values in the tooltip, let's say I want to add the profit and the profit margin as well, we can do that. Okay, let me do it one more time. So first, let me reset it. Okay, here we go. And now when I go to tooltip, we have all these options. We'll again have to make it bold. And change the color as well. And there we go. Now we have this very nice tooltip that we have. Of course, you can increase the size as well if you want. So I can make it, let's say 20, like this. So this means we can add additional fields to the tooltip. But what if we want to create a tooltip that is another visualization? Let me explain that. So I will create a sheet and we'll call this our custom tooltip. It could be any name that you want to give. And on the custom tooltip, I want to create a visualization. Nothing very complicated, something very simple. So let us say that I would like to see my segment and sales as a tree map. And we also want to go down one level to the category, right? Like this. So we'll go back to the tooltip. We already have one. But when we go to tooltip, I can press enter 2 times, go to insert, and I can insert one of the other sheets. So you notice I can insert one of the other sheets. I'm going to select my custom tooltip here, everyone, which is this one, right? Click on OK. Now look at this. You actually get the tree map. How cool is that? Now, in this case, I don't really want to see the numbers coming at the top, or at least reduce the size a little bit. I think it's too large right now. So let me make it 10 and look at the result. That's beautiful, right? And it's all dynamic, by the way. If you want to change the size, then I can also change it. So let's say it's 500 by 500. And if you notice, our tooltip looks like this. Of course, you can mess around with it a little bit to find the perfect size that you want. And I would also like to go to my custom tooltip and keep the number in the label. Perfect. And here we go. How cool is that? Look at the amount of data it is able to present you, right? Like this. Hello, everyone. We have covered a lot of things on Tableau, but it's very important to know how to even choose the right visualization. So I'm going to share some tips and tricks with you and some learnings with you, things that I have learned from working across various organizations. So if you simply Google choose chart type and you do an image search, you can see that there are these diagrams that have been created. Let me select one of these. Let us select the one which is there on Microsoft, which I can't seem to find at the moment. Okay, let me search for Microsoft here. No, that doesn't help me either. Um, just a moment. Okay, let me try one more time. Okay, I don't seem to be able to find that specific link that I wanted, but it doesn't matter. I can just choose one of the other ones. And if you find something like this basically tells you all the common charts that you have and also when you should use them. For example, what is it that you would like to show? If you would like to compare, let us say previous year with current year or previous month with current month, and if it's static, then maybe a bar or a column chart. If something is changing over time, then you can make a line chart. But if it is cyclical, you can also make a circular area chart, which is called a radar chart. Similarly, if you have two variables, then you can make a scatter chart. Three, you can make a bubble chart. For example, the sales profit and the profit margin. So this helps quite a lot because it's not that we don't know that these charts exist, but it is very helpful to be able to find it, find the right chart when you need it. You know, when you're working on a project, it's handy to have a reference document like this with you to just be able to isolate the one that you feel is not appropriate and find the one that is really appropriate. The other tip I have for you is to go to the Tableau gallery and you can look at what other people have created. Sure, a lot of what you find here will be fairly complex because it would require a lot of calculations behind the scene. That said, it will still give you a lot of different ideas, right? And even if at the moment you are not sure how to make it, you can always go and learn it, right? So this is fantastic. And from a design point of view, it gives you excellent ideas in terms of how you can create different types of charts. And once you start to find some really good Tableau experts around the world, for example, let us say I'm searching for Andy Kriebel. You can see that Andy has 1100 visualizations on Tableau. And check this out. There's so much that you can learn from it. Some of these will be self-explanatory. Some of these you will have to put in some effort to understand. But I hope you see the way you can systematically go through different charts of different skill level and then try to see what is it that they have done in the chart that makes it special and then try to learn it yourself. All right. Then we also have this visual vocabulary. You can search for Andy Kriebel on the Tableau website. And the visual vocabulary is essentially a vocabulary of charts created by Financial Times. So if you Google Financial Times visual vocabulary, you find this very nice, comprehensive vocabulary of different charts that you can use. And it also tells you when should you use all of these charts. All right, now here you notice Andy has actually done the hard work for you. Right? Or I believe somebody else has created it, that you will have to check. But you can see here that so many of these different charts have been created and you can actually see what fits well with your own data, right? If you notice, I can even download it as a Tableau workbook. Of course, you will need to have the complete Tableau version to be able to open it. You cannot open it with Tableau public, right? But you can still have a look at everything. One more thing that I like to do, everyone, is to see what other firms are creating. For example, let us say what let me just open one of these websites for you. Right? So let us say what a economist, for example, is creating. So economist has something called graphic detail. And they have these beautiful write-ups on different topics. And I love the way they are presenting the visualization. There's, I believe, so much to learn from the way they are presenting it, right? I'm not saying all of these can be done on Tableau or is even possible to do on Tableau, but it will still help you think in so many different ways. And I can guarantee that you will come across something that you love and you would want to work on the same thing. Like this, there is a link that I shared with you on Lucid Chart. And what I've done here is I have put several websites, right? For example, here you have different galleries on Economist, Information is Beautiful, Reuters, Financial Times, so on and so forth. Then there are also different websites using colors, icons, fonts. So the idea is that I have put a lot of different websites in a single place so that you don't have to go here and there trying to locate them. This link is also available in the files folder. So please make sure to have a look at it. And I continuously keep on updating this as well. Right. So I hope that helped everyone. Look at what is available on the Tableau gallery. Identify some good people who are working on the type of data and who are working on the style of the visual that you like, and follow them. And these guys are very prolific. If you follow them on their website or on their YouTube channel, there's so much that you will learn. Obviously, another approach would be to read consulting reports and try to see how those reports have been created. There's a lot to learn from that as well. So you can look for Big Four, KPMG, EY, PwC, Deloitte, and the Big Three, BCG, McKinsey, and Bain. You can also look at reports by Accenture, Oliver Wyman, IBM, so on and so forth. Hello, everyone. Now that we have worked on a number of different charts, let us see how we can create a dashboard. Now, unlike Power BI, where you can create a dashboard directly, when you work on Tableau, you can't really do that. It is not possible for you to make multiple visuals on a single sheet. So first, you will have to create different sheets. Each sheet will have only one visual in it, no matter how simple or complex it is. And then you will have to combine all of it into a dashboard. Let's see how to do that. So I'm going to make a new sheet and I want to call this my dash. And we want to call this the sales value. In this, we will just keep one number. So I will select my sales. We also want to increase the font size. For that, we right click, go to format, and I would like to increase my font size to, let's say, 16, like this. And on the alignment option, we will also make it center alignment, like this. Perfect. Let me right click and duplicate it. Let's call the second one dash profit. On this one, we want to select not the sales, but the profit value. Right. One more time, right click and duplicate. Let's call this my dash column chart. On this, we want to keep a column chart which will have the segment and the category. So segment, double click on category, and we will change it into a column chart like this. Then I can go to profit, make it quick table calculation and percentage of total. And then we also want to say compute using table down. And let's also keep the profit in the label. Make sure to press Control while you're doing it so that you make a copy like this. That looks good. We also don't need the y-axis, so let me remove the header. Okay, let's make one more sheet. And in this one, maybe I want to make a map. So let me remove everything and we want to make a map here. For this, we will select the country in the filters because we only want to select one of these countries, which is India. And then we select the state. And we also want to put the sales in the color. Let's also add a border here. Yeah, I think that looks good. Perfect. So we have a map, we have a column chart, and we have two cards here, right? Now I can select not my sheet, but the second option, which is a new dashboard. This is where all the sheets can be put together. First, let us change the size. So I will change the size to a fixed size, which is my generic desktop 13665 by 768, like this. Now I can select my sheets one by one. So I'm going to select my sales and then drag it. But you notice it picks up the sales sheet and it fills up the entire dashboard, which is not what we want. So let me undo it. Don't select tile, select floating. Now when I put the sales value, you notice that I can just put a floating button like this called sales, right? We can also move it down. I also don't like the title, so let me double click on it. And we don't want the sheet name. We want to call this the total sales. And let's change the color a little bit like this. Perfect. We'll do the same thing with the profit as well. So profit, double click. Let's call this the total profit. Center align. And let's keep it here. I'm also not sure why the profit is. Let me just make it a little wider and see if that helps. Yeah, that's better. Please keep in mind that formatting is going to take you forever in Tableau. So don't be worried that it's taking you so much time. It is expected to take that much time, right? Okay. We also should keep a title here. So we will select our text and I want to call this my sales dashboard. Let's increase the size a little bit and use two different colors. So I will use a blue and I will use maybe a different color here. I think I can increase the size a little bit further. Let's make it 22 and let's keep this at the top like this. Maybe there should also be a line that separates the cards and the title. So I will select a blank object. In this blank object, we can go to format. So for the format, I want to select, just a moment. Okay, let's go to layout and we have the border. I'm going to select a border here, maybe in a different color. Yeah, I think this looks good. And then we'll choose the background as well. Perfect. So let's keep it here. And we'll also increase the width. Perfect. So we get this, right? Now we go back to our dashboard and now we select our map. We'll drag the map here. This title is not required, so I can right click and hide it. And then we will also select our column chart. We also don't need this legend, so let me remove it. Let me keep it here. Let's keep this here. Hide the title. Perfect. Okay, there we go. Now you might be surprised to see that when I select one of the states, the other chart is not changing. Like if any of you are coming from a background of Power BI, you know that Power BI does this by default, where all the charts are connected by default. In Tableau, they are not. So to do it, I will have to click on the drop down and we will have to select use as filter. When you do this, now you notice that when I select any one of the states, please see what happens. You will notice that my cards and my column chart is changing at the same time, right? I also want to make my sales a little wider. One moment. Okay, that looks good. Perfect. Here we go. Right. So this, everyone, is how you create a dashboard. Now you might be wondering that Havish, we have seen such crazy looking, beautiful dashboards online. How do people do it? Essentially, they're doing the same thing. What we have done is just that there's a lot of time and effort and a lot of calculations that have gone into it. Right. So start small. Make sure you practice all the small things first, and then gradually you can increase the difficulty level of the dashboards that you are creating. If you want to add an image, that is also possible. So let me just drag my image here. And maybe I want to add a general image, something related to sales. So let me go to a website called Icons Inc. I will search for sales as an illustration. Let's select something that we like. Okay, I guess I like this. Let me download it as a low resolution PNG, which is free of cost. Let's come back, choose the image. So in my downloads folder, we want to fit the image, center the image. Okay. Okay, you know what? There's a watermark here. So let me opt for a different one. I can't really seem to find one that I like, but let's not be too picky. Let's pick this one. Download low resolution PNG. Come back, edit the image, choose conifer, and here we go. I'm not quite sure why we're still getting a watermark because we shouldn't be getting one. Let's do one thing. Let me just scroll above, and I'm not sure if there's an option to search for the free ones, but let's just select. Yeah, I think all of these seem to have a watermark on it, which is quite surprising because I've used it before and we never used to get that. Never mind. Let's go to undraw.co. That would be undraw.co. Let me browse, and we want to select something related to sales. So search sales. Let's pick one of these. Download. Come back. Drag our image. Choose. And let's see if we are third time lucky. We are, and everything is working perfectly. And here we go, everyone. Okay. So that creates a complete final dashboard for you. Yes, there is a lot more that you can do with Tableau. We have created a very simple one. If I take you to my own website and I show you the different types of dashboards that I have created, you will get an idea, right? Okay, look at these. These have all been done on Tableau. I'll show you some of the more detailed ones. Look at these visuals, right? They're all so special, and all of these have been done on Tableau. Even these have been created on Tableau. So my point is that yes, it takes a lot of time to get the formatting right. Look at this one. I really like this. Make sure to identify a good dashboard from the Tableau gallery. Try to deconstruct it. Try to see the design, the colors, everything that is a part of that dashboard, and then try to recreate it. Yes, there's a lot of learning, a lot of practice, a lot of time that will go into it, but it's a good thing, right? This is where you realize that learning Tableau is one thing, but being able to create a masterful dashboard is a different thing altogether. Hello, everyone. Let us talk about one of the most advanced topics in Tableau, which is level of detail. First, let me explain it on the Excel file so that we understand what it is that we're trying to do. And then I'll teach you how to do this on Tableau. So I have the Superstore dataset with me here. Let us go to Insert and Pivot Table. And in this, I will select my customer name in the rows. And let's keep our sales in the values. Now think about what we are doing here. In fact, let me not do this so that you understand it a little easier. Let me keep my region in the rows and my market in the columns. That's a lot better. I also want to hide the decimal place, everyone. Okay, that's strange. I don't seem to be able to change the decimals. Let me try it one more time. Let's go to custom and okay, there seems to be something wrong. For some strange reason, I can't remove the decimals. Doesn't matter. Now, if you think about it, each market has different regions in it. And as a business, I would be very curious to find out the average of the regions for each market. What that means is that if I'm talking about Africa, and I know that there are 5 regions in Africa, so we have Central Africa, Eastern Africa, North Africa, Southern, and Western. I would like to know the average of all of these 5. Similarly, for APAC, Europe, LATAM, and USCA. Let me also hide the totals so that we only have the numbers with us. Now, a lot of you would be thinking, why can't we just right click and then summarize as an average? Because that would do the average at a transaction level. That's not what we want. We are happy with the fact that this is the sum of sales for each of the 5 regions in the African market, but we would like to find the average of all of these, right? So if you look at these numbers, everyone, this is what we want. So I would like 156,673,821, 721, and 470. What is the interpretability of this number? If I look at, let's say, APAC, I would say that on an average, each region in APAC is doing 673,000, right? So it's a 2-level operation. First, we want to find the sum of sales for each of the regions, and then I want to find the average of that. Let us see how to do this on Tableau, everyone. All right, so let me open my file. All right, so we will select Tableau course. And I want to make a new sheet. And let's call this the LOD, which is the level of detail. First, we will double click on the market so that we have a list of all the 5 markets here. And then we go to the drop down, select create calculated field. I want to call this average of regions. We'll make a curly brace like this. And in this, we will say that first we want to include the region. And then we want to find the sum of sales. So before I press enter, let me explain what this means. We want to create a list of regions for each of the market. So we know that Africa has 5 regions in it. So we want to create a list of these 5 values in a column. And then we want to find the sum of sales for those 5 regions. Similar to what we have done in the Excel, we want to create this. But after getting a list of 5 values for the 5 regions, I would like to find the average. Right? Okay, average in Tableau should be an AVG. Here we go. Okay, let me drag this into the table and look at the numbers, everyone. 156, 673, 821, 721, 472. Exactly what we were getting here as well. So that explains to you how this works. Now, I have an entire course that covers level of detail expressions. Maybe you have already bought it as a part of the bundle. If you haven't, then you should definitely have a look at it. In that Tableau level of detail course, I cover over a dozen examples of how to use these. But otherwise, if you just want to say Tableau LOD, you can see that on the website, it explains what level of detail expressions are. So basically, it allows you to control the level of granularity on which calculations are happening. We have include, exclude, and fixed, right? I'll obviously not walk you through all of it. I've given you an example. And I hope you understood what it is that we are trying to do. Syntactically, it looks quite strange. Like you might be wondering why we're using the curly bracket. It's just the syntax. Don't think too much about it. To do the same operation in Power BI, the approach is very simple. I have a video on my YouTube channel as well that explains how to do a level of detail expression on Tableau versus how to do a level of detail on Power BI. Just to give you a glimpse. All right, so I want to show you my Tableau playlist. And you can see here that I have a video that explains here we go. So Tableau average per category, Excel average per category, and Power BI average per category. On Excel and Tableau, I've already shown you how to do it. The video also explains how to do this on Power BI. Just to give you a glimpse, on Power BI, everyone, the formula looks something like this. The topic as such is very important because when you want to do a lot of advanced calculations, it's very important to know how LOD works. But not a lot of Tableau users know how to work on it. Should you first learn the basics of Tableau and then move over to LOD? It depends. If you're comfortable with the logic, you can do it right away and learn it parallelly. On the contrary, if you feel you want to first do all the basics and then move over to it, I'm okay with that as well. But any which way, it has to be learned because as a Tableau developer or a data analyst or somebody in data visualization or business intelligence, LOD really is a skill that is important to some organizations. And even if it's not important, it is definitely something that will get you some additional brownie points. Hello, everyone. In this video, I want to talk about union and merge. This is not a data visualization lecture. I want to talk to you about two things. Number one, how do you combine multiple Excel files that are there in a folder? And number two, how do you combine two different files which have different fields in it? Let me show the problem statement first. You can see here that I have a folder on my desktop that is called Sales Historical. And this has three files in it, one for each year, 2011, 2012, and 2013. Let me open one of these. So if you look at 2011, everyone, there are about 9,000 records that we have. And we also have all these columns with us. There are let us check once. So there are 21 columns that we have. The data here is not really important, but it's a transactional data with which we are working. And the same set of 21 columns are also available in the other two files, which is 2012 and 2013. Now, the objective is that I have to combine the data from all of these files into a single data set. So that is problem number one. Problem number two is that we have a category dimension table with us. So this sheet only has the three categories and the 17 subcategories. Now, if you go back to the 2011 data, you will notice that in this transactional data set, we only have the subcategory, we do not have the category. So if you look, we can see that we only have the subcategory here in column P, but we don't know the parent. So we don't know which category all of these belong to. Now, this is typically how any data set would be prepared, where there are multiple tables. Why are there multiple tables and not one master table? A lot of reasons. There might be different file owners. There is a security concern. Plus, from an optimization point of view, it doesn't make sense to keep all your data in a single file. That is why we have something like SQL that allows you to query and do the ETL operations. All right. So I will go to Tableau and we will go to Excel. And to begin with, I will simply select one of the files from the sales historical folder, which is, let us say, 2011. Go to open. Okay, now in this screen, you can see that we have sales, which is the name of the sheet, and we have 2011, 2011 being the name of the workbook. I can double click on the new union option. And here we will select my wildcard automatic union. The folder is already selected for us. This is the folder that has 2011 in it. And I want to include all the sheets. And I also want to include all the workbooks, which are an Excel file. So that would be an asterisk.xlsx. That means that any and all Excel files that are there should be included. Click on OK. Now, when I do that, you notice that it tries to create a join between the original and the new one. So let me just remove this and do the union one more time. So wildcard automatic, we are selecting asterisk.xlsx. So it selects all the Excel files. Go to OK. And you notice that we have a union that comes here. When I go to sheet 1 and we double click on order date and double click on sales, you can clearly see that we have the data for 2011, 2012, 2013. How cool is that? But there is something that is missing. We only have the subcategory. We don't have the category. So if I scroll this, you can see that we only have the subcategory, but we don't have the category. So we go to add, and I want to add another Excel file. So on my desktop, we have category, open. Now you notice that there are two connections that we have. So on the category workbook, I will select the sheet and then drag it, and this creates a relationship. Now, if you think about it, sheet 1, which is the category, is my primary key, and union is my foreign key. Sheet 1 is the primary key because each subcategory is mentioned only one time. There are 17 of them. But in the union, obviously, each subcategory has been sold multiple times. So when I go to edit relationship, you can see here that it is automatically detecting that my subcategory and subcategory are matching. If I go to performance options, then I can also change the cardinality. So we know that the subcategory in the union is a many site, and the subcategory in sheet 1 is a one site. Like this. Let me go back to the sheet. And now when we double click on the category, how cool is that? It is able to split the data for the year 2011 into 3 categories: furniture, office supplies, technology. Despite the fact that the category is not in the same 2011, 2012, and 2013 file, it is there in a different file altogether. Now, I'm obviously not covering this topic in detail, but I'm just letting you know what you should be reading about. So please definitely read about a dimension versus a fact table. There are some excellent websites that talk about it. Also read about data normalization, which allows you to structure a relational data. We call it a relational database because we are relating two different data sets, the sales data and the category data. Also remember that for more advanced operations, we do have a tool called Tableau Prep that allows you to do this with a lot more flexibility. So while in Tableau, it's good to have these very basic features of a union and a merge, you should know that Tableau Prep is the tool more appropriate for it, which will give you a number of different options. Now, union is quite simple to understand, but if you look at the merge or the join, we call it by different terms. And if you just search for joins and you do an image search, you can see that this explains how joins work. Fundamentally, the topic is the same, irrespective of whichever tool you work on. So whether I do it on 9 or on Python or on SQL or on Power Query or on Alteryx or on Tableau, the fundamentals will remain the same. Those of you who have never worked on it, do not be afraid. It's not a very difficult topic. Definitely go ahead and have a look at it. In Excel, when we use a VLOOKUP, that is equivalent to a left outer join. Even though now with the introduction of dynamic arrays and lambda, we can recreate other types of joins in Excel as well. All of this has been explained on my YouTube channel. So I have explained dimension tables, fact tables, relational models, data normalization, as well as how joins work. So make sure to have a look at that.